General preview, this is Alabama's region. They're the top overall seed. Arizona is in here, and Baylor is the 3 seed. So Baylor was a 2 seed for a lot of bracketologists up until the last couple days. That's a hell of a 2-3 combo right there.
Hey guys, just a reminder,
Alabama,
our sponsor for today's episode is
arguably the weakest 4 seed in
They are
Virginia.
hosting the Field of 68
I know some people were surprised to see
this
them
year. They are
at a
giving
higher
away
seed than say Duke
or
Miami
in
their
ACC for you to get on there and
conference.
Find out
but
just how good their
I would call them the
is.
weakest 4 seed. We'll talk about maybe some upset specials
I've
there.
used them for Super Bowl
My
squares.
Missouri Tigers, Jim's Missouri Tigers are in this region as a 7, as they should be. They're a dog against the 10 seed Utah State Aggies.
So go check them out.
That's a funky one, as is West Virginia, Maryland. West Virginia, the 9 seed. Again, a team I thought was a little bit underseeded, is the favorite over Maryland, who is the 8 seed in this region. What are your thoughts, Matt, just looking at the bracket as a whole really quick? Who do you think you're going to pick out of this region? Is it Bama? Do you have to go Bama? What do you think?
Yeah, it's Bama for me. Yeah. I was trying to rank the difficulty of the regions. People always seem to have to have your hard line take on what's the easiest, softest cupcake region versus what's the hardest, most unfair region. I think this is the second easiest for me. I think Bama actually rolls not easily, but I think they're the least tested of my final 4 picks, which we'll get to in a second. But sorry, I was laughing at someone in the chat saying who let the high schoolers run the show. That's good stuff. I appreciate the.
You'd be surprised to know we are in our 30s. I know we don't look it. Yeah. We are getting pretty.
And Kai had a couple of D3 offers, by the way. You say we're not D1 players, but you were a fringe. You could have gotten there, I think. You always had the upside. Kai, here's my. I think Arizona really high upside on the bottom part of that bracket, right? But defensively, I don't really trust either. Especially don't trust Baylor. And Arizona, I mean, you got Kirk Krista playing with like one arm, and you have Omar Bala who's playing through a broken hand. So I think that was going to be maybe my, if not Alabama, then who pick. But I worry if they're a little bit too brittle. And we saw what happened last year. Their bigs weren't that great. I think that's where they were banged up against TCU, and TCU gave them all they could handle. So that's my concern there with the Cats.
Yeah, man, I might take Baylor, to be honest. I'm still a pretty big fan of this team. Offensively, they're fantastic. We know this. We're worried about defense for sure, and I'm probably going to be a hypocrite a little bit later on when I say defense really matters in this tournament, because I think it does. You have to be able to play on both ends of the floor, and I'm not sure Baylor convinced us that they have the ability to do that. But they have athleticism. They have a fantastic coach. Perhaps JTT gets even more right in this tournament. Tough matchup round 1 with UC Santa Barbara. That's no gimme. They have a lot of talent on that roster. They have power 5 caliber players and certainly athleticism as well. Upset favorites here. Furman is the obvious one that sticks out to me. In my opinion, it's a perfect matchup for the Paladins because they can shoot over the pack line. Matthew, I know you probably agree with me. Are you a Dens guy? Are you rolling with the Dens here?
Yeah, well, of course, we have to put Tennessee on upset alert as well, because they should be on upset alert every time Rick Barnes steps into the tournament as a favorite here. 10 against Louisiana. I mean, they got Jordan Brown as a 5-star recruit, former Arizona guy. They got real size they can defend. I would put them on upset alert as well. But things I will actually pick Furman. I think Tennessee wins a close one, but I think we saw how they can be. They can look mortal. I mean, even against Mizzou, right? Who's smaller, faster, more perimeter oriented. They didn't really exert their physical dominance in that one. So that's concerning. Their offense really bugs me, as it does seems like an annual tradition for Rick Barnes in Tennessee in the dance.
See, I like Louisiana. I think this is a terrible matchup for them, though. Like, you could not have picked a worse 4 seed for them to play.
Strength on strength.
Yeah,
strength on strength.
It's they bully people too. They get to the rim and they rebound offensively. And Tennessee, that's really hard to do against them. They kind of shut down the middle. They are a bunch of men playing boys. No Ziegler, of course. Yeah, their offense won't be that great. Louisiana's defense isn't like that stout. I kind of worry about Louisiana in that matchup. But Rick Barnes' history in the tournament, if you're into that sort of thing, yeah, it hasn't been good. One we haven't even talked about, the obvious one, I think, for a lot of people. By the way, I think 12s and 13s, I'm kind of making a little wager here. I think they win more games than 4s and 5s this year in the tournament. I think they're that strong this season. And Charleston's going to be a very popular pick. They were the committee's top 12 seed. I love San Diego State. I have a future on San Diego State. But boy, is Charleston a good team. And I know San Diego State has better offense this season than years past. But this Charleston team's offense can get explosive. They can really run. It's going to be an interesting little pace battle between the two. and I kind of worry about San Diego State here.
I would too. We've talked about how they can go through scoring. Well, sorry, I jumped to the East region to talk about Louisiana. I didn't mean to put Tennessee so quickly in my crosshairs, but sorry, staying in the South.
Tennessee. Yeah.
That's my fault. Let's stay on track, Matthew.
I didn't catch it either.
But to hammered in your point of the 12s, 13s being really good this year, I saw Will Warren, who does the very nice bracketology resume site. He broke down the average, and this was before the field was released. But basically looking at the bracket matrix 12s and 13s, their average KenPom adjusted efficiency margin.
Yeah, strong.
Just to get real nerdy for everyone out there. Yeah, strongest it's been in like 10 years. So it's a really good crop. And I also think the opponent on the other side, the 4s and 5s, are less, not as, more vulnerable. We'll just say that way than in years past too. So I think we'll see a lot of upsets from a seeding perspective. But again, we say that in quotations because a lot of these spreads are short. And I think that's just indicative of how closely matched a lot of these teams are.
Yeah, you're going to see a ton of short spreads. I mean, Furman's like 5 at all my books in Illinois.
5. Yep.
5 against Virginia.
Yep.
If it was a regular season game, I'd probably say that's way too short. But the tournament has that weird thing about it that it just plays to a different number. I feel like Santa Barbara, like I mentioned, I do think they can beat Baylor, and Baylor's not, or rather, there is precedence for Baylor going down in the first round with Scott Drew. Remember Yale? Yale took down Baylor not too long ago in this tournament. I believe that was a 4-13. No, that was 3-14, wasn't it? I think it was 3-14.
That was.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Chad. I thought it was 3-14.
No, 3-14.
But
I thought it was,
regardless,
4-13 maybe.
So UC Santa Barbara has the best point guard in the Big West, one of the best in the mid majors. Andre Kelly played for Cal. Miles Norris is really good. Josh Pierre-Louis is really good. It's a ton of talent. I think they're have a real shot to take down Baylor. The 15 seed, Matt, I love Princeton. I don't think they're going to get done against Arizona. I'm actually impressed the committee put Princeton on the 15 line. I thought they just had a placeholder for the Ivy winner because the committee is lazy in the last couple of days. They don't like to shift around the bracket too much.
Yeah.
They put Princeton where they probably belong. They didn't have quite the resume Yale did. Yale's probably a 13 seed. Princeton got the 15.
Right.
So they clearly made some adjustments today, which they do not usually do, as you can see from other positions in the bracket, cough, Texas A&M. Your Tigers, Matt, I think they're in trouble. That's all I'll say.
Can I say your Tigers are in trouble?
My Tigers. Oh, yeah, let's talk Mizzou. I think you're wrong, by the way. I think Mizzou's going to win.
I think Utah State wins.
Why?
Sharpest guys in the room, if we consider those who've already been betting into the markets, the sharpest guys in the room.
I don't.
They're kind of well, it's they've pushed Utah State up a whole point already up to 2.5, even 3 a couple of places.
Good.
I think Utah State has this is so the total open like 160. It's been bet way down, but it's gonna be a high scoring game. Yes. Utah State has more size than people think. Like they're big, like they can shoot, but they're also big, and they kind of have like a little bit of the Craig Smith residue, even though now Odom's the coach there. I mean, Trevian Dorius is 7'1", and he's like good and skilled, big piece up front. And then Atkins a really good, just rim roller, catch dunk, protect the, protect the lane. I think they're a more complete team than people have been getting credit for. I mean, you guys went to the bracketology stuff, and I think it kind of just popped how, oh wow, this team is like very in the field. I think they were kind of considered a bubble team to maybe the outsiders, but then those in the know realized how legit their resume was. And I think it's just a good indication of how legit they are. However, kind of the Mountain West angle, talked about this in our live reaction write-ups. They have been, people like to make fun of the Big Ten, but Mountain West has been the worst conference in the tournament. Haven't won a game in, I think, 4 or 5 years. I think 3-11 against the spread their last 14. But this year's different, and I don't like looking at those historical precedents to make an assertion about this matchup. I think Utah State's really good. However, Kyle, let me go as far as to say the winner of that game will beat Arizona, Mizzou, or Utah State. So I'm going to kind of hedge my anti-Mizzou versus also be a pro-Mizzou guy there.
I wish I could support you on that one. I'm not sure I can get there. But Utah State's resume and Mizzou's resume, they're basically polar opposites. Utah State has incredible predictive metrics, and their quality wins do not jump out at you. They have not really beaten a whole lot of people, to be frank. Most of their quality wins happen in the Mountain West, but they are a top 20 team in KenPom. Hence, they are favorites in the betting markets right now. Mizzou's the exact opposite. They have an incredible resume in terms of quality wins. They, I believe, have the lowest predictive metrics out of anybody as an at-large in the field currently. So
KenPom hates Duke or hates Mizzou. KenPom does hate Mizzou. He's on record.
So they have won a lot of close games, but I think while Utah State has size, they don't punish you through their size. They don't play through their big men in the post. Taylor Funk's a stretch 4, and I think Mizzou has a ton of matchup capabilities with them. Kobe Brown can guard him on the perimeters. Diarra can guard him on the perimeter. A bunch of guys can do that. It's going to be a shootout. I would lean towards the over. I think it's also going to be played pretty high possession, and there's going to be a lot of threes in this game. A little bit of an obvious over, in my opinion. I've seen people I don't necessarily respect call for an over on Twitter already, so take that with a grain of salt, I suppose. Players to watch in this region, Matthew. Obviously, Brandon Miller. Hilarious, the Wooden Award, just sneakily just put him on the list, Player of the Year awards, because they forgot him to the start of that award finalist. Oops.
Yeah.
Tubelis at Arizona, fantastic player. He did not win Pac-12 Player of the Year, but he's one of the best players in that conference. Keontae George, fantastic freshman for Baylor. Really, Baylor's entire backcourt is somebody you should watch in this region. Ryan Kalkbrenner.
Better backcourt, Kai. Real quick. Better backcourt, Alabama or Baylor?
Baylor. Is Brandon Miller's front court?
I think so too.
All right.
Yeah. I know he's technically like basically a 6'9" guard. We'll call him a front court. I think Baylor has the best guards. If you're all in on the guards win in March thing, maybe you trust Baylor here. I just don't think they can defend anybody.
I agree. Kalkbrenner, we haven't talked about Creighton at all. We don't need to be long-winded here in this region, but they have a matchup with NC State. Creighton, they're a lot better than a 6 seed. Predictive metrics would agree with that as well. They just didn't have the resume, frankly. They have not won as many games as you'd expect this team to win. Obviously, in preseason, some people thought they were a top 5 team. Not that, clearly, but still a very dangerous one. He's a guy to watch. Kobe Brown from Mizzou. I'm a homer, but the guy's a 2-time first-team all-conference player in the SEC. Yeah, they put 8 to 10 guys in that conference in that first team, but still a player to watch, Matthew.
Yep, I think Kobe Brown. I mean, I still never forget when we talked to Jabari Brown at the MAC Awards ceremony. Jabari Smith, thank you. Jabari Brown, former Mizzou Tiger, obviously. Calling Kobe Brown the hardest guy to guard in the SEC. I don't think anybody was talking about him at the time. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Charleston has a bunch of guys that, I mean, they're like the anti-star power team. Yeah. I mean, who is their star?
Dalton.
Is it Rain Smith? Maybe.
Bolin.
I don't know. Dalton, maybe. Yeah. It's just,
he came from D.
It's a bunch of, what feels like, right. And they're just really good.
Yeah. He came from D2. He wore an eye patch for a long time in D2. Hilarious pictures. That guy's a ball of energy. Check him out. All right.
Insane.
Who's your pick? Pick one team coming out of the South. I'm going to probably take Alabama. I'm thinking about Baylor. Your thoughts? One team. Go.
Bama.
All right.